Yeah.
Okay, Isaac, it's like we didn't just talk about work for the last 10 minutes.
Rabbi, good afternoon. I'm looking forward to the Sabbath weekend, and what a great way to start. What a great way to start the Sabbath.
I agree. Okay, so let's, as opposed to discussing the past, let's just get started with the verses. Maybe we can read over 118 because like a unit, and how about we'll go up to 118 to 120.
Yeah, okay, 118 to 120. The Gospel according to St. Matthew, chapter 1, verses 18 onwards. Now the birth of Jesus Christ took place in this way. When his mother Mary had been betrothed to Joseph, before they came together, she was found to be with child from the Holy Spirit. And her husband Joseph, being a just man and unwilling to put her to shame, resolved to divorce her quickly. But as he considered these things, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream, saying, Joseph, son of David, do not fear to take Mary as your wife, for that which is conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, stop right there. I recognize that 118 to 122 feels like a unit, but I felt like 121 to 123 is like a whole separate unit. So I figured there's so much to break apart right here. I figured we'd start here. So we did 118. Let's start with 119. And right
So
when
I have a question from yesterday. I didn't get a text you today morning at 7 a.m. I was up early, but I was working.
I don't even know what I was doing at 7 a.m., right?
Yeah, no, I was up much earlier. I was thinking about, I was thinking about a discussion from yesterday, and you said, so far he has not mentioned God. And I think your point was, let's wait for Matthew to disclose that he is God. The word Christ was used 3 times, but
Yes.
when Matthew says that, like when he states that this child was from the Holy Spirit, was found to be with the child with the Holy Spirit, isn't he implying? I mean, he didn't use the word God. That would have been very bizarre. But by sowing the seed that this child who is born from God, or is born like he is, the Son of God. Um, you know, so
Okay, so you're asking a good question. You're saying, is Holy Spirit the same thing as God? And that
absolutely
doesn't
right.
necessarily mean
As
God.
absolutely right. I mean, okay. I mean, so from the Christian perspective, you'd say yes.
Well, I'll be honest. From what you said yesterday, you were willing to say, well, there's this idea of Holy Spirit means movement. And I would just ask the very simple question, is the gospel afraid to use the word God? If it's not afraid to use the word God and it uses Holy Spirit, I would just say that let's reserve the right to say Holy Spirit is God, but also reserve the right to say that maybe it means something specific. Even when we talk about the Trinity, we don't necessarily always mean that all the things are identical, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
There could be different aspects. So I would reserve the right to say Holy Spirit means something special, especially given the fact that Holy Spirit would have been a common phrase in the first century,
Mm-hmm.
and it would not necessarily have meant, and it would not have meant God. So I feel that Holy Spirit in this context is very ambiguous, and we're meant to struggle with the term. And I would hate to give up that struggle in the name of just superimposing God in its place.
No, again, it's a question. No, I think that makes sense. Yeah, yeah. So because the concept of the Holy Trinity wasn't developed when the Bible, again, it wasn't there. Like this concept of Holy Trinity wasn't, it wasn't formulated then. And so I can see, like back in the day when Matthew wrote this, he didn't see this. Maybe he didn't see this as 1 and 3. He just meant as Spirit of God, and so he used the word Holy Spirit. That could be one. That could
Right,
be an
and again,
option.
like agreed. Putting aside one is 3, we still have we have to struggle with this Holy Spirit, and it's really interesting. We're gonna see God's name in this section in 122. He's gonna pop out of nowhere, and God's
Yeah.
gonna all of a sudden, and it's really interesting. I don't want to skip to 122 right now, but we can give a disclaimer.
Yeah.
It's very clearly means God and not, and you could have even said the Holy Spirit. In 122, it says fulfilled was spoken by the Lord, by God through the prophet. Literally, it's saying the Bible is from God. And then we could have said Jesus is from God. It wouldn't have been any problem doing that. So I think we just have to be sensitive to the diction of the Matthew.
Perfect. Okay, yeah. We can
Okay.
wait until 22. 19. 19.
We'll see.
Isn't
We'll see if that clarifies our first Old
not
Testament biblical prophecy fulfillment. Okay, so we have what I would argue would be I don't know if the right word is contradiction, but a contradictory notion in 119, right? So first we have that Joseph is her husband. For whatever reason, which I think we said that he was called that someone who did Kedushin at first, someone who was betrothed to her, but in biblical and rabbinic tradition, that counts as marriage. So all of a sudden, 119, we see he's her husband. But then right away, we see that on the one hand, he's a righteous man, but on the other hand, he was not willing to make her a public example.
Isn't that remarkable? Isn't that remarkable? So here's a Jewish person, a Jewish male, and his decision making was so complex again. So he embodied empathy. He embodied compassion. Like if you were to
I completely agree with you. He's not embodying compassion. He is acting.
He's acting of compassion and
So
empathy.
I'm gonna take out your favorite word, antinomianistic, and I'm gonna throw out the question to you right now and say, in Deuteronomy, we know that Mary is meant to be executed. Is it compassionate and empathetic to ignore and or not be willing to execute the prescriptions given in Deuteronomy, and then of some additional empathy? So that's a question I was going to throw at you.
So I was thinking about this now. I'll have to look up Deuteronomy before I can give a proper, before I can give you a thorough answer. But my initial research it pointed that he could either choose a public divorce or a private. Like he had the option. If he chose a public divorce, then this will be very well known. And as you mentioned, yes, she will be stoned. But there was also the option where he could do a private divorce. And I think there were certain circumstances
100%.
where he could do this thing where it's still a divorce, but it's not publicly known. I mean, it's publicly known, but it's not.
The divorce is you get a couple guys together. I'm saying this woman's not married to anyone, not betrothed, and go team.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah. Now, so to your question, right? He could have very well chosen the first option, as in making this a very public divorce. But what I'm so moved by his empathy and his compassion.
Well, I'm asking more strong than you. I didn't. You're the one who added divorce as an option. I was saying, why isn't he? Maybe he should be more empathetic to the values of God in Deuteronomy and get her executed. I'm wondering why, before the Holy Spirit comes to her, does he think he has the right to not seek her execution? That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, I'm not following. So why would he? So you're saying, why didn't he choose a more public option, do a public divorce and have it executed, right? So
I think those are two things, right? There's execution, there's divorce, and then there's do nothing. Those are his three options.
So even within divorce, he has two options: a public or a private. Do nothing. So he probably has four options. He probably has four options.
A public and private divorce is not like a real thing. When people get divorced, people know about it, but it's not like a public and private divorce.
So yeah, it's an execution more tied to a public, but I mean public divorce. It's well advertised.
Execution, but that's besides the point. I'm saying his three options though are execution, divorce, or nothing. Those are the three options.
Yeah. Well, if you put it that way, right? I say when you mean do nothing, he'll have to live with her, and he knows that that's something which he wouldn't be able to do as a just.
No, and that's forbidden too. You're not allowed to just stay with a woman who cheated on you. He believes right now that she cheated on him with another man. He believes she's a sinner. But what 119 says is something that's amazing. It says, being a righteous man. So this is the contradiction. A righteous man should have thrown her down the river and got her executed.
Well, that depends upon a certain definition of righteousness. So I think I see you're coming from adjustment, right? Now, I think that's a good. Well, it took me a while. So now we're getting okay. Now that plays upon upon antinomianism and as to what do we mean by righteous? Is righteousness as in
right? So this is what I'm saying. I'm saying that the definition of righteous that we're given and the very first chapter of Matthew is something that I'm not saying universally, but something that another text would say because he was a sinner, he was not willing to make. We're literally taking the idea of righteous and flipping it on its head. That's what I'm pointing out.
I see. Well, I think I'll have to look up the passage in Deuteronomy. I didn't realize that.
I'll get it for you. I think it's 22, like 26. I'll get it right now.
22-26. Okay, yeah. Let me get back to you on this one on that question as to what you might remember. But here's my question to you, right? So let's just say for sake of discussion that again, he could have either chosen to have it executed or have it humiliated in a very public way.
Okay.
But he chose not to do that, and that was driven by again a sense of care. Like he wanted to divorce her, but he wanted to do it quietly, so that again she wouldn't have to go through shame. But isn't that remarkable? Again, the empathy and the compassion he has for somebody for
Again,
whom.
what you call empathy, I'm saying I agree with you that because the first half of the verse says that he's a righteous man, it's viewed as empathy. But I'm saying that that is a very antinomianistic perspective, one that's rejecting the Deuteronomy perspective. So let me read you Deuteronomy. Ready? Deuteronomy 22:22. If a man is found sleeping with another
Mhm,
man's wife,
mhm,
both the man who slept with her and the woman must die. You must purge the evil from Israel.
mhm.
If a man happens to meet in a town a virgin, blah, 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 you take both of them, blah, blah, blah. You take both of them to the gate of the town and you stone them, the young woman, blah, blah, blah. It goes on and on. But um,
So is it possible?
been free, you do nothing. But in this situation, you could argue that Deuteronomy, whatever the word means, find, and maybe being pregnant is evidence, or maybe if you look back to the story of Genesis of Judah, he definitely, I'm not saying we should look at non-legalistic text, but when you look at the story of Judah and Tamar, he's like, oh my God, you're betrothed to my son, quote
Mhm.
unquote. You're pregnant. Let's go burn the witch.
Yeah.
So the idea of righteousness here, I think, is so not discursive. It's so subversive that it's mind blowing.
I see. So the question you asked me earlier, right? So we had three options. What could have he had done? Either he could like do nothing, divorce her, or have it executed. I want to turn this back to you. So based on the verse you read right now, both the man and the woman, they both should be executed. It's not
No.
just her.
Only and the guy she cheated with. In this situation, the Holy Spirit would be executed.
No, yeah, hold on. So okay, Joseph doesn't know that.
Right.
Joseph doesn't know that. So Joseph, he's betrothed to Mary, and realizes, oh my gosh, she's pregnant. He doesn't know the man. He didn't know. He doesn't know who like who's the other person. So if you were to take that route, which means they have to be have married. They'll also have to identify this other male.
I know,
I
but
see.
that's not possible.
No, wait. See, hold on, wait, hold on, hold on. But yeah, hold on. So, but we don't know yet. Like he doesn't know at this time. At this time, he doesn't know that this is from the Holy Spirit. Is it remotely possible because he lives in a small town that he's known? Like when I mean known, I'm not saying he's friendly. Like he's seen this person, the people live there, so word spreads around, and the fact that she was pregnant might have been completely out of line with the character as how he might have known her. When I mean known her, I'm not saying dating or being friendly, but in a town
I
where
agree.
people,
He wouldn't have betrothed her had he thought that she
yeah,
was sleeping around. Correct.
yeah. So it probably raises a question. There's something going on because I've seen this person, and this what happened here is not aligned with the
Okay, but you got
character.
evidence.
With
Yeah. No matter how humble and holy you think a person are, when you see evidence to the contrary, you're going to update your definition.
See, isn't that why Jesus came? Isn't that the main reason?
Oh,
Again, see now. I mean, no, but here's my question. Life is so complex, right? Life is so complex. I mean, and we have to take into account. Like, so here's Joseph as a man, and I mean, and a person is betrothed to whom he's known, and he sees something in her which is so completely out of character with her for all these years in which he's known her. Now,
I
what is
mean,
the right? So
is it
what is
out
the
of
right thing to do?
character?
What is
The
the right
verse
thing
gives
to
a
do?
reason. The
Hmm?
verse says he wasn't willing to make her a public example.
Correct, because he had to keep the law as a devout person. Keeping the law was important, but also in place there's so much of unknown. Like how is this possible? Somebody I've known for this long suddenly is so completely out of character. Now I would argue that I
I
would
hear,
argue that
I
see
hear.
I would argue if Joseph had the smallest inclination that she was sleeping around, that he would have gone and filed for a public divorce and have her humiliated.
No, but
But
look, the end of the verse says that he was planning on getting rid of her. That's what 19 says. He goes,
on quietly, right? Isn't quietly the important term? Yeah, he want to do this, but kind of do it quietly, not
what verse is this? Okay, keep going.
is
Keep
it?
going.
It's the last word in verse 19. He wanted to divorce her, but he wanted to do this quietly.
Yeah,
So
he
yeah,
wanted to
so
divorce her secretly. Yes.
yeah, so he wanted to keep the law, and that's not negotiable for him. But he also wants to go the Arabic as a male,
I don't know if
as
you're right. I'm not sure if
so.
this counts as keeping the law. It's a good question. The question is when the verse says to execute someone for this, do you have the right to say, if I want to, I'll execute them, or if I don't want to, I won't? I don't know.
So
Depends how
here's a
you
question. Okay, here's a question I want to put forth to you. Life is so complex. There's sometimes which we don't have all the facts.
We
Now,
don't
if you
know
would,
facts. We don't know who she slept with.
okay, we don't know who she slept with, and he doesn't know either,
Right.
right? He doesn't know either. So if you were to keep the law, if he were to be a just man, keep the law, he's not the final judge. He also has to identify. They also have to put to death the man who caused her pregnant.
No, no.
Now,
I
okay,
agree with you. What I agree.
so
So
if you
you're
were
saying in,
if you were to push for a very public divorce and have it executed, but somehow like not know who the man is, then isn't that being unjust? As in by doing the law being unjust, where he chooses who can live and who doesn't live.
again, like, so I don't agree with that aspect, but I do agree with you that if you read close Deuteronomy 22:22,
Yeah.
it actually doesn't say anything about pregnancy. It says that if a woman is found with a guy, it sounds like they're in the act together, then you kill them. So it could be you taking a very specific hermeneutic rule, an exegetical way to read this text. You're saying, well, if you read close Deuteronomy, it doesn't literally mean that she's pregnant. It means that you found them together. And so you don't have enough evidence that maybe he's following the law that way, and therefore it's his choice. I would have no problem with that read. I think that's a possibility. But to say that it's his choice and he wants to do this privately, I think there's a little bit more happening.
I'm not saying it's choice. What I'm saying is the life is complex, right? Like it doesn't circumstances we face in life don't always fit in that exact rule. And so if she was sleeping around and he had evidence of that, then absolutely I think he'd have chosen to spy. But I think it's given who Joseph was as a devout Jew, um, he probably grappled with there's something here I'm not quite getting. Like here's Mary, I've known her for this, I've been betrothed to her. How can she become pregnant? And he probably like he had this doubt in him, this fear to say like there's something over here which I
He
can't quite.
100% knew how she got pregnant.
He
That was
how will
never a
he
question for him.
how will he know this? How will he know that she
Because
got
she's
pregnant?
pregnant. Everyone gets pregnant in the same way.
Yeah, but they were betrothed. They were not sleeping together.
Yeah,
They
because
were
she cheated on him. It was never a doubt in his head. There wasn't the smallest iota that she cheated on him, and therefore he said, instead of killing her, I'm just going to get rid of her divorce. Because I'm a tzaddik. I'm a really nice guy. I'm righteous.
I don't know. I see, but see, it didn't say that he. I don't know if I can say that he doubted her. Like he knew he had to keep the law. He knew he had to keep.
There was no other possibility. I don't. When you say doubted her, she was pregnant. What was the other possibility?
Okay, so if she was pregnant, he doubted her. Then he could have filed for a like. So put it
No,
this way:
because he's a righteous
why
person. That's what the
why
verse
did
is saying.
okay why did he want to divorce her quietly? Why not do it
Because he was
publicly?
a nice guy. That's the whole thing.
Nice guy,
That's what
righteous
it
guy.
said.
The same.
Literally, your point. Like, listen, the Bible and the New Testament don't throw around the words righteous. For
Yeah.
example, when Noah is called a righteous person, everyone's like, "What does that mean?" Over here, Joseph is being called righteous, but it's giving the subversive definition of righteous.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that, like, that's the whole point here. I think one of the points, in my humble opinion, of the New Testament is to be subversive towards standard kind of attitudes towards either Judaism or religion in general.
Mm-hmm. And so the other word here in verse 19 is the word resolved. Resolved to me again means that he came to final decision, but it wasn't a straight linear path. He probably went back and forth in his head. Finally, we ended on his final
I'm not
decisions.
sure what you're saying. He decided to get rid of her.
Well, he resolved. I mean, isn't resolved a bit more stronger than decided? The word resolve. I mean,
I'm having to be so meticulous in analyzing the English. So, for example, in the Greek translation into English, direct, like, which is no better than this one, it says, "But her husband Joseph, being righteous man, did not want to make an example of her, and planned to divorce her secretly." So they have planned. So we can't be too meticulous in our English words as we understand this. This is supposed to be a literal translation from the Greek, But, I think what you're saying is true, decided, planned.
Would it have been common?
Back
Would it
and forth.
have been back in the day? Would it have been common for her to confront her, to say like, Mary, what do you do?
Why? What does the confrontation help you? To what avail?
Or see,
Wait,
so
let me ask you that question. Whose perspective is this from? This 118 and 119?
this is from Matthew's perspective. No.
It's
And it has,
from Joseph's perspective,
yeah,
right?
yes, yeah.
Side is this. We never, for example, we never see Mary's side here. It could have been like you're saying, Mary would be like, "What's wrong with you? You think I would cheat on you? I would never do that." And he goes, "What happened?" And she goes, "God."
I don't know. No, I don't know. I don't know because
perspective.
yeah.
So that's a good question. If you were rewriting Matthew, do you think it's more important to have Joseph's perspective or to have Mary's perspective?
Wow, that's a really good question.
I
would, I would have. I think so. As a Christian, given all the Christian theology, I appreciate his compassion, his empathy, but I would also appreciate if Matthew had spoken a bit about Mary's perspective also, right?
Let's. I mean, if we try to figure this out, if I was rewriting this and I said Mary, it would have gone like this. Mary realizes that she was pregnant before she was visibly pregnant, right? She would have been the first to know. She would have known that her menstruation cycle stopped. She would have known that her body's changing. She would have known that her eating habits changed. So imagine her either going to Joseph, confronting him, saying, I got some bad news, or at the very least, she should skip town. She knows the possibility in 119 of her getting executed. What kind of person waits around for that?
So she did skip down. That comes in Luke, right, where she lived with Elizabeth and what's her husband's name? Elizabeth and.
I'm saying, but right now, that's right now. It's from Joseph's perspective, kind of telling us, I'm letting her live. And my question is, why does Matthew give Joseph's perspective, ignore Mary's? And I'm arguing that I think it's because they want to redefine a righteous man.
I see. Well, when you put it this way, now it clicks. Right? So he wants to define a righteous man, and so in summary, right? How do you define righteousness? How do you think Matthew's defining righteousness in this way?
Well, let me hear what you think. I think it's being subversive. It's a person who chooses to not follow the prescriptions of Deuteronomy or to hide things because he wants to, as you said, either embody empathy, show a higher level of care, showing that the feelings for another person is more, or the care for another person is more important than execution. It's a very non-militant, very pacifist attitude.
Yeah, and this is antinomianistic, right?
So you gave a read that's maybe not. I think Deuteronomy 22 could be read both ways. But yeah, it either is, or at the very least, there's definitely this idea in 119 that we're feeling that he's going against the grain of something he could have done.
That's right, yeah.
Okay. Isaac, unfortunately, the Sabbath is coming upon us.
This has been wow, it's 3:30. Wow, this half hour went so quickly. I just wish it's the same thing at work every day. But anyway, no, thank you. I've enjoyed this. This is so much to think about. But this guy is just remarkable. Joseph is remarkable. And well, have a happy Shabbos. Have a happy Shabbat.
I love my favorite goy saying the word Shabbos correctly.
Amen.
Amen. Okay.
Amen. So, well, have a happy Hanukkah. So, like, how do you wish Hanukkah? Isn't Hanukkah this weekend?
Happy Hanukkah. Any person who says the ch sound gets points. Any non-Jew could just say Hanukkah. We appreciate, and that makes us think to say Christmas properly.
Hanukkah. So, is it this weekend or when? We have the dinner this week.
We got some time. It's a week from last night. So we got some time.
So why do we have the event on Sunday then? I thought okay.
We can't do it during the week. We have to choose a good day. Hanukkah is very important for family life. They wouldn't want to have a big virtual dinner the same time as one of the nights of Hanukkah because no one would come. Hanukkah overrides all. It's a family time, a positive time. It's like December 24th, 8 nights in a row. It's the best thing in the world.
Good. Okay, great. Rabbi, thank you. Have a great Shabbos and talk to you on Monday. Thank you.